And to begin to summarize this topic of the justification for purchasing an EV and how it may impact the environment and climate change, I just don't believe it's justifiable to buy an EV if it's going to be too much of a financial burden on you. Again, if you purchase an EV and it's too much, the cost is just too high for you. You will have to work more hours. You will have to perhaps spend more money to drive that EV. You have to make some investments in charging infrastructure, especially at your home. You may have to go out of your way if you don't have a home or an apartment building that has a charging station at the apartment building, and that may be too much of an inconvenience for you. You may have to, again, go out of your way, charge for many hours on end in other locations other than your home, and that's just not viable, not sustainable in most cases. You also will be, this is a big drawback from electric vehicles, you really are not getting off of the coal-powered fossil fuel grid or system or industry. You really are not getting away from it because the charging electricity that is used is, for the most part, here in the US, in North America, is generated by using fossil fuels, mainly coal, but also natural gas. In some instances, it may be nuclear, mostly nuclear, depending on the area where you live. And it may be also a combination of sources. But the primary overwhelming source here in the US and North America is coal, which is a fossil fuel. So unless you live in a country or in an area that is majority of the energy produced in that area comes from renewables, such as photovoltaics or wind or tidal or geothermal or even nuclear, then you really are not supporting the green industry or the sustainable industry, alternative energies, etc. with an electric vehicle. So you need to think about that. You will be spending significantly more in energy. I learned that myself. At first, I thought I was not spending a lot more energy than I used to, but I just recently sold my electric vehicle and the energy use went down dramatically right after I stopped charging at home. I usually charged, however, during the day, even during the early hours of the night, which are the highest rates for this area for electricity. So that made a huge difference on my power bill. So you need to think about that. Really, I believe myself that it didn't make a difference or much of a difference, but in reality, I just found out it did. So if you do have an electric vehicle or are planning on purchasing one, make sure that you charge it when the rates are the lowest, which is usually very late at night and very early in the morning, middle of the night, etc. So also, if you buy an electric vehicle, especially right now with the inflation up in late 2023, you will be supporting and propping up the high prices, the inflation. You will be helping out the banks, Wall Street, the speculators, the investors, the Tesla crowd, and the very rich and powerful, which love inflation, love this period of high earnings, high making of money or high profits, and they're loving the high interest rates. And if you purchase a vehicle right now, you are going to most likely get stuck with a very high interest rate. I just found out through some questions I was asking to my local dealership here. I was looking at a Nissan Ariya and I asked about the rates, and I was shocked to hear that rates are right now between 5% and 13%, and those are considered to be reasonable rates, and that is just ludicrous. That is just criminal. If you get a rate of 7, 8, 9, 10, and even 11%, that is pretty much a death sentence, economically speaking, financially speaking, and you are going to have a extremely hard time paying for that loan back, especially a loan for an electric vehicle, which can run between $30, $40, $50, $60, even $70,000. We're speaking of over a decade worth of very hefty and high payments in most cases here, and especially at these rates. So don't support, if at all possible, the inflation. Don't support your friendly Wall Street banker. Don't support your speculator that's just living large from these times of inflation and outright financial abuse, if at all possible. So that is another big reason to hold back purchasing an EV or electric vehicle. As a reminder here, I have listed some prices of among the most popular EVs right now as I speak. And of course, the Nissan Leaf is probably among the popular ones when it comes to affordability. Right now, the MSRP, or the manufacturer's recommended sales price, is $30,000, more or less, give or take 1,000 or so, of course, depending on your area. But I'm speaking mainly here for the mainland US. In North America, it's going to be on that range, give or take 1,000 of $30,000 for the Nissan Leaf. If you're looking at the Tesla Model 3, which is probably among the most popular, a lot more popular than the Nissan Leaf, surely. The Model 3 for Tesla is about $40,000. Of course, give or take a couple of $1,000s here, depending on many factors, location, whether you get it directly from Tesla or someone else selling it to you. I have seen some Teslas out on the market that are going for more than what they're going for brand new. Same model, same year, and they may deal with the availability and how fast you get it. So also another car, or this is an SUV or compact SUV that Nissan just launched in 2023, is the Nissan Ariya, or Aria, depending on your pronunciation preference, and it ranges from $45,000 to $62,000, which is a horrendously high cost for an electric vehicle. The range is quite wide because this vehicle, sadly enough, came with a whole bunch of trim levels, models, different features, and to my opinion, it's just too many models, and Nissan should have kept it simple. And however, that is what they have, and you're looking to pay, close to $50,000 and up, regardless which model you pick, because even the lower trims, you're looking at, the high 40s out the door. These prices I'm naming here, they're out the door prices. That's what you're going to end up being less of in your bank account when you walk out of that dealership. Kia EV6, which is a SUV. I'm not sure how popular it is or how much it's been selling, but I've seen it quite a bit out there on the road out here, and MSRP is reported to be at $45,000. Take that with a grain of salt, because the ones I've seen and looked at, depending on your area, of course, and the availability, this vehicle could run more than $50,000, but it is listed at $45,000 MSRP. Another quite popular EV, I believe to be, is the Hyundai Kona EV, which the MSRP is listed at $35,000. Again, that price right there could vary depending on your area and other factors by a few $1,000s, perhaps $1,000 to $2,000, give or take. So just to wrap it up, yes, getting an electric vehicle does make somewhat of a difference, especially when you consider the environment, when you consider the fuel industry, especially the oil and the petroleum industry. If you want to withdraw your support from the petroleum industry, it is best that you, if you really need it, if you really want to, and you can comfortably afford it, then I believe it does make sense to purchase an EV. Of course, not right now, if it could be helped at all because of the inflation, but once the inflation wanes, which I hope it does here soon, there are some indications that it's beginning to wane, then buying an electric vehicle, I think, makes sense, even though you will still be supporting your fossil fuel coal industry. However, I believe it to be a step forward. At least you're not supporting both the coal industry and the petroleum industry. At least you're going to be withdrawing your support for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part, you will be withdrawing your support from the petroleum industry. And if you did not have the money, if you do not have the money, if you really think it doesn't make much sense or it's not in any way justifiable to dish out $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 or even more for a brand new electric vehicle because you have an older vehicle that's already paid for, that runs fine, that is somewhat efficient, that does the job, that takes you here and there, that you can drive here and there. And also another factor is if you don't drive a lot. If you just don't drive a lot, if you just drive a few miles every day, or even less than that in some instances, where you have the opportunity to walk, take the bus, take the train, take a ride from your friend, neighbor, family member, and your vehicle just stays in your driveway most of the time, then really it's not justifiable to buy an electric vehicle, because again, you're going to be putting that demand on that one electric vehicle that you just took off the market, and you're going to create a huge carbon print. You're going to create a demand for more cobalt, more petroleum, because it does use petroleum for its tires and other parts, for steel, for all kinds of metals, all kinds of plastics and minerals and products that really is not a necessity for you. And you must consider that. And you will be doing the planet a huge favor by holding back and not purchasing that vehicle and remaining with your older vehicle. And you can attempt to make an impact, make a difference in other ways. That is not the only way to help the situation with the climate, with the environment, by purchasing an EV. There are many, many other ways, and you can focus on those. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for listening, and do send me your comments about this topic. If you are thinking about purchasing an EV and you want to justify it, I hope I was of some help. And if you are already an EV owner and you have some counter arguments to my few points I made here, you can also send me those through this platform where I post this chat. So thank you very much for listening. Hope to catch your attention the next time. Bye.